guys, it's Becky and today I'm going to be reviewing The Raven and Dove by Kaitlyn Davis. The Raven and the Dove is a YA fantasy book where our main characters are humans in most part, but they also have wings which represent the house that they live in, whether it's dove or raven or mockingbird or anything like that. The blurb is probably going to be a lot more helpful to explain exactly what this book is about than me, so I'm just going to read that straight off for you now. A princess longing to be free. On the dawn of her courtship trials, Princess Lyanna Aethionis knows she should be focused on winning her perfect mate, yet her thoughts wander to the open sky waiting at the edge of her floating kingdom. One final adventure calls. Upon fleeing the palace, the last thing she expects to find is a raven prince locked in a death match with a dragon, a bastard aching to belong. Reviled son of a dead king, Rafe would do anything for his beloved half-brother, Prince Lysander Tatanus, including posing as him in the upcoming courtship trials. When a dragon interrupts their secret exchange, he orders his studious sibling to run. After suffering a fatal blow, Rafe is saved by a beautiful dove who possesses forbidden magic just like him. Fate brought them together, now destiny will tear them apart. Unknown to the world above, on the foggy sea 10,000 feet below, a young king fights a forgotten war. He believes Lyanna is the queen prophesied to save the world, and with the help of his favoured spy, hidden deep in the highest ranks of the Dove royal house, he will stop at nothing to have her. So I've got to be honest, The Raven and Dove was definitely a cover choice for me. If you've seen it, you will know, I will put it up here again for you, you will know that it is beautiful. And yes, I know you're not meant to judge a book by its cover, but most fantasies do have a very particular look, and so I wasn't wrong thinking this was a fantasy. Although I probably should have caught on that it was in fact a romance, which I don't normally like reading, but actually I quite like this book as a whole. Kaitlyn's writing style is really, really lovely. It flows and it almost feels like a fairy tale in places. I really enjoyed the world building, particularly because all of these places feel so magical and immersive. Even the character descriptions about how they have wings and they can fly and they're all beautiful makes you want to kind of just float up into the clouds and go find these 7 islands that you want to join in with. As each of our main characters are a type of bird, and then they just have huge wings which they can use as and when needed and to fly around the different islands. What I did enjoy is that whilst there's 7 islands, they're quite far apart, so you do have to fly between them. I really like this particular detail because the princess has never been off her island because she is the House of Peace, and that is where all the birds congregate every year. The House of Peace is also the first house we're introduced to, and including Lyanna as the princess. The House of Peace is also called the House of Doves, and all of their people are doves. They are the central island of 7, and each of the islands does float above the ground. I really enjoyed being introduced to the kind of central point of the bird nation, I guess, and I really enjoyed that each of the different islands after that are described as completely different. They have different cultures, they have different terrains for their countries, they have different buildings, and they have different ways of life. As you can see in kind of the mating ceremony, the kind of introduction of each of the houses, all of the different houses are showing off and giving gifts that are only available in the specific islands they come from. If you saw my vlog about Viper the other day, that had a very similar setting of each different island had different settings, and I enjoyed it very much. So for the House of Doves, we're introduced to Lyanna pretty early on. She's a rebellious teenager who doesn't really listen to her parents much, but she is very proud of her dove heritage. She's a very headstrong character and she doesn't really want to marry or leave her home, however she knows she must, but she's also very naive in places, and I think that's what put her in trouble a lot. Lyanna also has magical powers, which is like a big no in this civilization, but luckily she's got the confidence of her best friend Cassie and her brother, and so she has disclosed it to certain people for certain reasons, but she is protected by the fact that it is in fact a secret to her people. What annoyed me most about Lyanna, to be honest, is that she didn't really grow throughout the book. By the end of the book, she's very similar to the first part, except she's in a different place. I think what happens right at the end of the book will change how she acts though, and I really hope she does mature in the next book. However, for this book, she's very rebellious throughout. She doesn't learn that while she goes to the Ravens, and she's still very headstrong, but this often puts her in a bad position, and she keeps putting herself in situations where she's going to get in trouble. I think she doesn't change much because in this book she doesn't really have many repercussions for her actions. She just kind of looks out quite a lot. But I do think that she will get a repercussion in the series as a whole, and I hope she does change. Moving on to Cassie. Cassie is Lyanna's best friend and confidant. But as a reader, you don't quite know what to make of Cassie. Don't want to spoil anything, but there's lots of twists and turns to her motivation, and we find out she does actually have magic herself, which I found it really intriguing and one of the best shows of magic in the book, in my opinion. She actually uses her powers to converse with King Malik below the clouds, and I found it really interesting to see what she's going to do next, because she kept twisting and turning for her motivations as to who and what she wanted to be loyal to. I don't want to spoil anything, but I also really enjoyed her backstory as to how she got to the House of Doves, as she is actually an owl, and I would recommend you read it just for her kind of person, as she's definitely my favourite character out of the book. After the courtship ceremony where Lyanna makes stupid decisions of picking the Raven Prince without really knowing them, she finds out that actually the Raven Prince was swapped in with his half-brother, who is a lot more athletic than his studious king. Unfortunately, Lysander, the Prince of the Ravens, only has one arm, and so often people think that he's incapable of being a king. Because of this, that is why Rafe is included in the courtship trials instead, in order to trick the other houses into thinking that they are still a powerful house in themselves. This is where things go wrong though, as whilst he gets his queen in Lyanna, he doesn't get one that loves him, but actually loves his half-brother. Lysander himself is actually a really sweet person. He's very studious and he clearly cares about his kingdom and his people so much. I really enjoyed seeing him not shown as lesser because of his lack of arm, but I did understand his insecurities, as people do judge quite a lot, and it's the same in this realm too. On the other hand, you've got his half-brother Rafe, who looks exactly the same apart from the different colours of their eyes. He is a very typical YA love interest. He's very brooding, he's very hot, he has a tragic backstory, and yes, you do feel sorry for him for his tragic backstory, but it's been done before. He's lost both his parents and he's hiding a big secret, which is that he also has magic similar to Lyanna. I found his story to be very frustrating because it's mainly a conflict about what he was going to do about his love for Lyanna when he also loved his brother and his kingdom. His brother also finding a queen means that Rafe is no longer needed in the house, and so this is kind of a completely different situation and conflict for him, which he's trying to get through at the same time. The world itself is a brilliant concept, as I mentioned before. The 7 islands floating above the clouds is so magical to me. There is also a world below the mist, which we don't really know anything about. All we know is that King Malik is on a ship. We don't know how or where, or whether it's even in the sea, or even if it's an airship like Treasure Planet. We're not fully sure at this moment in time. However, the snippets we get of the world below gives us information about the world above. So we know that the no magic rule is just for the world above. It's very common in the world below, but we find out exactly why magic is a no in the world above, and I really found that to be an interest. And again, no spoilers, but I think you would really enjoy it if you've read it as well. Because of this as well, the magic systems aren't really in depth at all. We know that Lyanna can heal other people, Rafe can heal himself, and Cassie can astral project. All of these are completely different to one another and have some kind of meaning to the people of the world below that we get snippets of, but we don't know much, and I really can't wait to see the next book and kind of delve deeper into the magic system. What we also know is that dragons are attracted to magic, and that means that they are going to follow those with magic to try and eat them. I don't really know why this is a thing, but it's really interesting and it's a good take on different dragons. I can't really do this review without talking a little bit about King Malik. We don't really know much about him, but he's definitely going to be the villain of the series, and it's really intriguing to see his motivations and what actions he's trying to take to get to the position he wants to be in, of which position we're not fully sure what his motivation is at this point, but I really enjoyed watching it. He seems like a very clever villain. He's got a masterminded plot, and I really want to see how Cassie, Lyanna, Lysander and Rafe react to it. For me, the main issue was that the insta-love is a bit different. The key issue for me for this entire book was that it was very romance focused. I'm not someone who likes romance, so I was very bored at quite a few different sections of this book. But I have since been told that this is a Tristan and Isolde retelling, which I've also never read before, but I'm assuming it's a romance though. Because I did pick it up on a cover buy, I can't really be too angry about this, as it wasn't sold to me as a romance book, as I just didn't read about it. But I did really enjoy it as a whole despite this. and I really enjoyed the magic, the action sequences, and the world building. So I will probably read the next book anyway, even though I know it's going to be a romance book and I know it's going to annoy me. There is in fact insta love in this book, which if you really hate insta love, don't read it. There's also some other people which I think are going to be put together by the end of the series. However, I can't say for certain at this point, but I think it will get quite messy. Overall, I really enjoyed the concept of winged humans and the, as I said, world building before. And so I can't wait to see what Davies brings out next. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.